Despite being adjacent to one another, Chidori Public High and the all-girls Kikyo Private Academy seemed to exist in two different worlds. The former was filled with dim-witted delinquents, while the latter boasted an immaculate reputation, with plenty of students from wealthy backgrounds. Rintaro Sumugi assumed he'd never come in contact with what was beyond the curtains next door. On the way to school, Shohei, Saku, and Ayato were having a little skirmish with some guys from another school. The other guys noticed that the three were from Chidori High and asked about the tall guy with blonde hair because their junior was in his debt. Shohei was about to explain Rintaro's whereabouts, but then he appeared right behind them, menacingly asking if these guys had done something. Needless to say, the two guys causing trouble bolted off, fearing for their lives. Rintaro sighed, telling the three they needed to stop bothering people, which made Shohei angry. They were the victims in this one because of some debt the other guy's junior had with Rintaro. Rintaro then remembered hearing some voices arguing last night. There was some kind of misunderstanding about cheating. The guy got slapped, and Rintaro felt bad about leaving him there. But when he called out to the guy got so scared he toppled over and ran. The rest of the boys felt bad for the guy. Running into Rintaro at night must have been a nightmare. He had such a powerful presence, the guy probably thought he was gonna get killed. Coming across some girls from Kikyo, their giggles turned into cold, avoidant gazes. Shohei picked up a handkerchief they dropped, and one of them responded, "You can just throw it away." Saku commented, "They really hate us, same as usual." But Shohei was certain they were flustered because of his good looks. Kikyo was a prestigious, traditional school for dignified noble ladies. But towards the Chidori students, there wasn't a trace of noble lady in them. Chidori was a school for low-class morons. The Kikyo girls despised the Chidori boys openly, and despite their schools being next to each other, the boys had never seen the girls' classroom, even once. Well, once they all graduated, they wouldn't have anything to do with each other, ever again. Shohei invited Rintaro to karaoke after school, but unfortunately, he'd have to turn him down. Rintaro needed to help his mom shop at 6. He ran under the pouring rain, and making it to Patisserie Plain, his mother scolded him for being late. But his school was quite far, so it couldn't be helped. His family owned a cake shop, so sometimes they forced him to help out. He never told anybody at school about it. Noticing the umbrella, he remembered his mother saying there was one customer today, and catching this customer's eye. As she munched on a big bite, her face quickly became red. She started to squeal and choke, so he'd apologize. After getting her some water, he was really surprised. He had no idea a girl could eat this much. She was so tiny, he wondered if she was a middle schooler. She hurriedly thanked him for the meal and ran off as fast as she could. He felt bad, thinking he scared her off. Rintaro's mother would later explain that customer was Karuko Waguri, and she stopped by a few times every month. He continued displaying a remorseful expression, causing his mother to stare. Hearing he was worried he scared Karuko off, his mother assured him she wasn't that kind of person, and thought her son had such a bad habit of blaming himself for things. Besides, if Karuko really stopped coming, Rintaro's mother would just reel her back in with more cakes. She'd make her fall in love with their shop all over again. Rintaro continued to mull over this at school. It really weighed on him. His buddies then came by with food, but he just walked off to buy himself lunch. Shohei could tell Rintaro really put up a wall between him and them. At home, Rintaro's mom came rushing into his room, suddenly telling him Karuko was here to see him. It was awkward when the two caught each other's eyes. She burst out, saying she wanted to treat him to something, and now they were across each other at a table with a cake in front of him. He didn't understand what was happening. Why was he being treated to his own family's bakery by a girl younger than him? This was her apology for running away last time without a word. He was still a little nervous, but looking back at her, she seemed to be drooling over his cake. He nudged it towards her, but she wanted him to have it. After a little back and forth, she finally gave in, and it was plain to see this girl loved to eat. When the treat was finished, they exchanged names, and she uttered, "I finally know it now." He brought that to her attention, making her frantic, as she explained she'd seen him around before. What happened the other day was the first time a boy ever stared at her like that. It made her heart race, that's all. He couldn't comprehend. Why would her heart race because of him? The average person got scared looking at him. Up until now, every person reacted the same, except her. He didn't get her. He suddenly got up, offering to walk her to the station since it was getting dark. But she couldn't leave without buying more cake, of course. She decided to head back on her own since it wasn't too far. But before leaving, she turned back to tell him she never considered him scary, even once. However, they had no clue some men were smirking, watching them from afar. Rintaro rushed upstairs, falling against his door, trying to comprehend what had happened. All his classmates had ever told him was negative things. His mother then opened the door on his back, distraught, as she showed him Karuko's cake. Karuko was being harassed by the two guys from the other day, telling her they should have some fun together. Rintaro rushed the streets, looking for her, and finding them, he overheard the guys asking why she was hanging with Rintaro. They were polar opposites. Was she his girlfriend? When they told her he was famous for being a delinquent, he stopped moving. They continued to bash him, remarking that he attended a school for outcasts and was surrounded by them, adding that nothing good would come from being with him. She responded that they were just blindly believing rumors to determine what kind of person he was, and assured them that one conversation with him would show just how kind he was. They grabbed at her, refusing, but even so, she told them to at least stop speaking badly of him behind his back. The guy let go. He had originally intended to use her to get some payback on Rintaro, but he changed his mind, going to punch her. Rintaro shielded her with his body. Blood dripped. He turned his back to ask if they were satisfied now, and they ran off like scared little chickens. Karuko then grabbed him to wipe the blood. Apologizing, he replied it wasn't her fault. The impact of his head hitting the wall is what caused this, and if he knew this would be the result, he would have just stopped the punch instead. She asked why he took the punch on purpose, and he explained, punishment, I guess. He felt bad she got dragged into this mess because of him. She couldn't believe people thought of him as scary, because all she saw was a kind soul. She thanked him for saving her. He was at a loss. He was used to people thinking the worst of him because of his looks, and never expected to be praised. He'd given up on all of it, yet now found himself asking for more. Leaving her at the train station, she called back to him, saying she'd stop by the shop again. And as her smile radiated, she told him, let's eat some cake together next time. When all was said and done, the thought of him holding to protect her was still fresh in her mind. Rintaro arrived early to school the next day, a little tired, not having slept much. Thinking of Karuko, he wondered when he'd see her again, but noticed the curtains at Kikyo moving and opening to Karuko on the other side. His eyes widened, and he quickly hid behind the curtains on his side. He couldn't believe she was a Kikyo Academy student. Imagining a beautiful image of Karuko, Rintaro didn't think there were people as earnest as her. She had told him to his face that she wasn't afraid of him. Later on, he would complain about the Kikyo students glaring at him again. It was so bad, he snapped this time. He didn't get why all of them were giving him nasty looks. It's not like he wanted to attend Chidori High. He would start complaining to Ayato and Saku as they entered the class, and they told him that they got glared at as well. Shohei was surprised, saying even the Mr. Popular Saku couldn't catch a break either. Saku also didn't like Kikyo. With Kikyo's noble ladies and Chidori's morons, it's obvious that they would constantly clash. As the friends talked about the injury on Rintaro's head, he was lost in his own thoughts. They snapped him out of his daze when they asked if he closed the curtains, and now he realized he had messed up by leaving them closed. Shohei then joked that looking at Kikyo's building wasn't going to cheer him up anyways, causing Rintaro to burst out and reply, "Definitely not!" His outburst made them wonder what had gotten him so riled up, but he said it was nothing, making the excuse that the sun was too bright. But Shohei pointed out he had never closed it before, and that he even liked the sun's warmth. As class went on, he recalled how surprised Karuko was when they saw each other, and felt he had acted rudely by closing the curtains and assumed that she wouldn't come to the shop again. Of course, he felt this was for the best. After class, Shohei asked him to come hang out. He first checked his phone to make sure that his mom didn't need help. She didn't. So, Shohei was excited to take them all to sing their hearts out at karaoke for all the times he hadn't gone before. On their way out, Saku suddenly stopped, noting that it was quite noisier than usual. Ahead of them, all the guys gathered because they saw Karuko waiting for someone. Rintaro was startled seeing her, thinking, why is she here, and what is she doing? Shohei would then approach her, spouting the regular delinquent mantra, "Oi, oi, oi," asking her what business Kikyo had with Chidori. In a shaky voice, she replied she was waiting for someone, and when Shohei badgered her asking, who, Rintaro then grabbed him and told him to stop scaring her. But Shohei questioned how Karuko could be acquainted with someone from Chidori. He couldn't comprehend it. Tears began flowing like a river from his eyes because he was so jealous. He threw a tantrum, wishing he had a girlfriend, even though he hated Kikyo so much. Ayu and Suzuka ran towards Karuko, asking what she was doing. They told her to hurry back with them. After all, those from Kikyo couldn't be seen with the Chidori morons, believing they'd catch their stupidity. As they dragged her back, Shohei asked one of the girls to apologize for bumping into him, but she slapped his hand away before he could grab her, delivering a ferocious glare as if the Chidori boys were lower beings. Walking away, Shohei wondered why he always got the short end of the stick. Meanwhile, Rintaro let out a sigh of relief. The whole commotion really freaked him out. He thought Karuko might have come to see him, but quickly pushed the thought aside. Maybe she knew someone else at his school. His friends then noticed he was making a weird face, something they had never seen before. They even thought it was scarier than his regular expression. Rintaro couldn't understand what was happening. Was he actually happy? He shook his head, trying to deny it. Now worried he ended up scaring her again, he simply carried on, telling himself it was definitely better if they didn't meet again. They got to the karaoke venue, where Shohei sang his heart out. Saku noticed Rintaro hadn't chosen his song yet, and Rintaro's mind seemed to be elsewhere, even as he tried to select a song. Saku then asked him if something happened. Even Ayato noted that he seemed a little off. Rintaro was nervous. He wondered if he told them about Karuko, what good would it do? Was there even a reason for them to know? He assumed they would tell him to avoid her, since she was from Kikyo. He couldn't blame them for feeling that way, but he still didn't want to hear those comments. In the end, he told them he was alright, and Shohei assured him that if anything happened, he could always tell them. They then decided to shake off the tension with another song, and Rintaro would apologize for making Saku worry. Saku then decided he would sing as well, which was pretty rare. On his way home, Rintaro noticed the cake shop was open, but it was way past closing time. He was shocked, seeing Karuko welcoming him home with a cheerful smile. She quickly apologized for what happened earlier, and understood the animosity between the two schools. His mom then came in, complaining that he should let her know if he's going to be home late, and also mentioned that Karuko had been waiting for him the whole time. She then offered the girl to stay and have some leftover cake. Karuko would try to decline, but her stomach had other plans, making the other two laugh. Afterwards, she and Rintaro sat at a table to enjoy their cake, and he noticed how happy she looked when she was eating. He then asked why she was at their school gate, and she answered unabashedly that she just wanted to see him. He couldn't believe this. However, she promised not to do anything rash again. He then suddenly blurted out that he was happy to see her, before realizing what he had just said. He then apologized for acting creepy, but she told him not to take it back, which put the both of them in a flustered situation. He admitted he thought she wouldn't come to the shop again because of the feud between Kikyo and Chidori, and thought it wouldn't turn out well if she associated with him. But Karuko was actually happy when she realized he was a student at Chidori. Of course, she felt embarrassed after saying that, and would quickly get up to leave, saying it was late. Grabbing the door handle, she told Rintaro how she thought she would get to know more about him, and the sadness on her face was evident as she left the shop. Feeling confused, Rintaro wondered why she made that face. Although he didn't know the reason, one thing he was sure of was that he hurt her. His mother then came in and asked if Karuko had left, but he gave her a dead look that freaked her out. She quickly ran to make sure he was alright, saying she didn't give birth to a skeleton. After talking to him for a bit, she flicked his forehead and told him to go after Karuko because it was dangerous for a girl to be alone at night. He then mentioned Karuko had told him she was happy she got to know him, and that he didn't know what she meant by that. His mother couldn't stand how dense he was, wondering where she had gone wrong in his upbringing. She then told him he was doing the same thing that was done to him. He hated being judged by his appearance. But now he was always saying, Kikyo this, Kikyo that. His mom pointed out that Karuko never changed her attitude, even when she found out he was from Chidori. Recalling the bad things that were said to him, he always thought no good could come from associating with a Chidori student like himself. He suddenly punched himself in the face so hard, blood spilled. He felt he was the worst for treating Karuko the same way he was treated, and thanked his mother for talking sense into him. The next day, Karuko saw him waiting outside his school gate. He apologized for hurting her, and mentioned how sad she looked when she left the shop. She then fell to the floor, feeling ashamed for having such a sad look on her face, crying that her expression last night was selfish. Seeing how she always told him things straight to his face, Rintaro felt he needed to face things head-on as well. He told her that he didn't think anything of the way both schools badmouthed each other. But when he thought about his schoolmates badmouthing her, he hated it. And so, he apologized for only focusing on their schools instead of looking at her, and that he was truly happy to see her too. She scrunched and smiled, then got up properly to introduce herself and tell him that their schools didn't matter. She only wanted to learn more about him. Later on, they looked at each other through their classroom windows, which brought immense joy to Karuko. Rintaro admitted to himself that he wanted to learn more about her too. He felt like a world he thought he'd never be a part of had gotten closer. On a hot day in May, Rintaro and Shohei were roasting from the intense heat. Shohei then suggested they cool off with the staff room's AC, and on the way, he grumbled about how boring everything was, until he lit up, remembering the sports festival was coming up this month. Unfortunately, their teacher later told them they wouldn't be participating because anyone who failed midterms had to take a supplementary exam. Shohei told the man that he didn't know if they'd fail yet. But when the teacher asked if he could pull it off, Shohei confidently replied, "No way!" Shohei then asked for a reward they could look forward to in order to do their best, and their teacher offered to treat them to ice cream if they won the sports festival. Back in class, it hit Shohei. The situation was worse than he imagined. He latched on to Saku, begging his friend to help him study because he'd never been able to concentrate for more than 10 minutes. But Saku refused. He went through hell the last time he tried to help, and Shohei still failed. Meanwhile, Rintaro asked Ayato for help, but even he had things he was unsure about. Shohei assumed their friends wanted to keep them out of the sports festival, and decided he would just study without Saku, leading to another stubborn rivalry between the two. Rintaro's mom then texted him, saying he should invite Karuko for their store's discount day. Glancing at Kikyo's building, he realized Karuko hadn't visited in a while. During class, his heart raced as he finally texted her. He became restless when she hadn't replied, and wondered if Kikyo girls were even allowed to use their phones. Just then, Karuko texted back, saying she was too busy this month to come to their shop. Rintaro didn't understand why he was feeling disappointed from this. Suddenly, Shohei slammed on his desk, saying, "We're going to the library." He was determined to pass the exams without Saku's help. Moments into studying, he realized he couldn't solve a single question. Rintaro then suggested they beg Saku. Besides, he was the only one who bothered to help them last year. He felt Saku was looking forward to the sports festival as well, even though he was playing hard to get. Shohei then got up, deciding to apologize to their friends in order to bring them to the library. Before leaving, he looked back at Rintaro and said he was excited for the festival because everyone would be together. Later on, two girls came into the library, but they couldn't find an empty table, so Rintaro stood up to make space for them. On his way out, he heard Karuko's name and decided to check it out, finding her studying with Madoka. Rintaro quickly hid to avoid their gaze, realizing that Karuko was busy this entire time studying for her exams. He assumed she was studying hard, but she was just happily doodling in her notes. She said she only did this during breaks, though Madoka teased that she probably needed lots of breaks to keep her top rank of the class for the school year. Rintaro continued his studies outside. He thought about how Karuko was extremely smart, even amongst Kikyo students, while in contrast, he was just a dropout failure from a school of idiots. He kicked back on the bench, thinking about how he failed last year, even with Saku's help. While he recalled Shohei's encouraging words, Karuko popped up in his face. He quickly jerked up, surprised to see her here, and she explained she saw someone familiar and came out to check if it was him, and also grabbed a snack since she was hungry. This girl really can't stop eating. Rintaro slid over so she could sit down. Karuko then explained she felt guilty for skipping out on discount day, but he told her not to worry. They had one every month. With her promising to save up from her part-time job and be there next time, Rintaro was shocked that she worked, even though she was rich. But Karuko said she wasn't, explaining she got into Kikyo through a scholarship. This was why she needed to maintain her spot. However, she hadn't been able to sleep well because of studies, and resorted to pinching herself to stay awake in class. Rintaro asked why she went so far, and she explained that she begged her father to let her go to Kikyo, so she didn't want to waste the opportunity. This was her pride. The more time he spent with her, the more Rintaro realized he'd been viewing Karuko through tinted glass. He felt ashamed, wondering when he started acting like the guys he hated the most. Worried about his grades, Rintaro asked Karuko to tutor him. He didn't want to disappoint his friends. She then smiled, offering him a bite of her lunch, and said she'd let him know when she was free. Suddenly, Subaru confronted them, and with a mean look, she asked who Rintaro was. Seeing her silver hair, he wondered if she was a foreigner, and thought it was pretty cool. But she glared at him, asking if he was from Chidori. Towering over, Subaru coldly warned him to stay away from Karuko. Shortly, Shohei and the others showed up, surprised to see the Kikyo girls there. Subaru muttered, "More idiots arrived." Rintaro's friends then demanded to know what the girls wanted with him, but Subaru told Karuko they should go, and that she didn't need to waste her time on savages. Shohei stepped closer to Karuko, trying to remember who she was, but Subaru quickly yanked her away, shouting at him to back off. While at the same moment, Rintaro also stopped his friend. His body moved on its own, and he had no idea why. As the girls walked off, Saku called out, asking if they'd forgotten what they were asked, then said Kikyo girls were slow-witted. When Subaru snapped back, he went further to insult her hair, which she seemed very conscious of, and he added that it must be nice to be a rich little princess. Rintaro then stopped him, saying he was going too far, and it wasn't like him to spew lame insults. He reminded his friends that Karuko was the only one they had seen before at the school gate, then explained that he approached her first, and wanted to apologize for scaring her back then. Afterwards, Shohei properly apologized to Karuko, since he was the one who actually scared her. But much to everyone's surprise, Karuko also apologized for causing them trouble in the first place. When Subaru tried to stop her, Karuko insisted that she apologize as well, but Subaru chose to leave. Karuko then met up with her friend, reprimanding her for leaving like that. However, Subaru would reply, "All men are the same," and asked Karuko why she should apologize to such people. Although Subaru hated men, she couldn't shake off the thought of how Rintaro stopped Saku from berating her. She then asked Karuko what type of person he was, and with a cheerful smile, Karuko replied, "He's a very kind person," which made Subaru feel bad. At home, Rintaro was studying hard but kept getting it wrong despite Saku's help. He got a message from Karuko, asking to chat for a bit. She then called him, and as she spoke, Rintaro noticed her voice was higher pitched than usual. She apologized for everything that happened, assuring him that Subaru was actually a good person. She also thanked him for lying to help them, though he said it was no problem. Then, she called him a very cool guy for standing up for them. Rintaro blushed. No one had ever said that to him before. He realized he'd been feeling strangely when talking to her lately. She decided they should meet up on Saturday for their study session. Realizing she'd been addressing Rintaro informally, she promised to be more careful. He then questioned why she was so polite to him, and she replied that she was just a customer at their cake shop. Rintaro couldn't help but wonder if Karuko only saw him as someone she casually talked to at his family's shop. It suddenly felt like things were so distant, just when he thought things were going well between them. As the call was about to end, he thought about what face she was making while speaking with him, and what face she would make when she heard what he was about to say. Feeling nervous, he told her she didn't have to address him formally anymore. She asked if he was sure, and agreed shortly. After the call ended, Rintaro fell back onto his bed and buried his face in his hands. How is he supposed to know what kind of face she made? Why did he say something so embarrassing? Still, he couldn't help but look forward to seeing Karuko without her formal facade. Meanwhile, Karuko's heart was racing the whole time as well, and she hoped he didn't notice that she was grinning the whole time. Where this day ends, we see Subaru staring at a childhood photo of her and Karuko with a sad look in her eyes. Rintaro slipped out from under his blanket, realizing he'd woken up way too early. He'd already lost track of how many times he reread his messages with Karuko, and today was finally the day of their study session. On the train, he was too nervous about this meetup. He hoped his clothes didn't look too weird. Eventually, he got off and realized he was a bit early. When he thought about killing some time, he immediately saw that Karuko was already here. She caught herself using formal language again. Now, talking casually with Rintaro wasn't something she was used to yet. Rintaro, on the other hand, blushed and wondered if she was always this cute. They arrived at the cafe, where Karuko savored the sweet food with joy. She said she'd been meaning to come for a while, and that it would do just fine for studying. Noticing that Rintaro wasn't touching his food, she asked if something was wrong. He was so nervous, he completely forgot how much she loved eating. Once they finished, Karuko said they should begin with math. She reminded Rintaro to ask if he didn't understand something. When he opened his book to show her a page, she leaned closer. So close, their eyes met. They both jerked back, blushing. Karuko apologized for getting too close, but Rintaro said it was fine. Still a bit flustered, her voice shook, asking which problem he needed help with. While she explained how to solve the problem, Rintaro couldn't focus due to his thundering heartbeat. A few moments later, she asked why he was so set on not failing this time. Rintaro admitted that if he failed, he wouldn't get to join his friends at the sports festival. He thought it sounded like a silly reason, but Karako told him it was a wonderful one. She commented that he must really love his friends, which made Rintaro choke on his drink. He asked why she phrased it that way. He only liked his friends, not loved them. I like how he's basically saying no homo. Karako, on the other hand, said she genuinely loved hers, especially Subaru, her childhood friend. Subaru was often misunderstood, but deep down, she was genuinely kind. Her dislike of boys stemmed from experiences in her childhood. Seeing that Rintaro didn't judge Subaru for how she acted made Karako feel genuinely happy. Hearing this, Rintaro once again felt really happy himself. As they headed home, he grumbled about sitting too long. Karako reminded him that studying was important, but also suggested he take some time to rest. At the train station, she handed him a study plan focusing on the key points. Surprised, he asked about her own studies, and she reassured him she was fine. She just wanted him to enjoy the sports festival. Driven by his resolve not to fail, Rintaro decided he would study on the train. But before he could leave, Subaru yanked him back, glaring sharply as she asked for a moment of his time. After sitting in silence at the coffee shop for a while, Rintaro grew increasingly frustrated. Just then, Subaru broke the silence, asking if he was Karako's girlfriend. Startled, Rintaro dropped his cup, spilling hot coffee on his fingers. Subaru calmly handed him a napkin, and he couldn't help but feel she was nothing like the girl he met before. After asking for his name, she properly introduced herself. Rintaro quickly recalled she was the one the Kikyo girls mentioned before. He answered that he wasn't Karako's boyfriend, but when Subaru asked exactly what they were, Rintaro couldn't find the words to describe it. She told him to stop seeing Karako simply because he was from Chidori. Rintaro tried to explain that the rivalry between their schools had nothing to do with who he was, but Subaru already knew that. She could tell he was a genuinely kind person. Remembering how rude she'd been at the library, she offered him a sincere apology. She acted that way because of her hate for Chidori, and men in general. But if someone had seen Rintaro and Karako back then, it would have been hard for her to explain. Subaru explained the teachers at Kikyo hated Chidori even more than the students. Considering Karako was a scholarship student, Subaru feared what would have happened to her. Just as Rintaro asked why she cared so much, a young boy tripped and fell nearby. They both hurried over to check if he was okay. As Subaru handed back his toy, the boy looked up and complimented her, saying her hair was so pretty. He then thanked her before walking off with his mom. Subaru stood frozen, stunned. It was the exact compliment Karako had once given her. Back when she was a child, boys used to bully her because of her hair, and all she would do was cry. But Karako was the only one who stood up for her. Subaru would never forget that day, and she saw Karako as her hero. Rintaro then mentioned that Karako told him they'd known each other since they were young. But Subaru cut in sharply, saying he didn't know anything about her. She had seen Karako give her all just to get into Kikyo. That's why she didn't want her friend to lose what she worked so hard to achieve. Even if Karako came to hate her, Subaru was willing to live with that, so long as Karako was happy. Once more, she desperately begged Rintaro to stay away from Karako. Then, a flood of memories flashed through Rintaro's mind. He told Subaru he couldn't do what she asked. She figured he would say that, recalling how happy they both looked at the cafe. When Rintaro left, Subaru wondered what she was even doing. On the train ride, Rintaro couldn't focus when he tried studying. He thought about how Subaru was the kind to care for someone so much, and he wondered if he had ever felt like that. When the train came to a stop, two girls rushed in, looking for somewhere to sit. So, Rintaro gave up his seat for them. The girls recognized him and called him back, thanking him for the other day at the library. When Rintaro asked about their studies, the girls froze up a little, clearly frightened by him. Still, he smiled, and said it made him glad to have been of help. As Rintaro left, the girls admitted that he was a really nice person. On the other hand, he hadn't expected any thanks. He remembered how Karako always expressed gratitude, even for the smallest things. And despite everything, he didn't regret what he said to Subaru. The next day, the lecturer announced that Rintaro and Shohei had passed their exams. The entire class celebrated their success and interviewed them. Shohei's eyesight had worsened from too much reading, while Rintaro was overflowing with joy. Of course, they couldn't have done it without Saku's help, and they all thanked him. Rintaro thought this was the happiest he had ever felt. But as he rushed to text Karako, he remembered Subaru's words. In the midst of the excitement, Saku bumped into Rintaro's desk, causing a book to fall and reveal Karako's name. Rintaro froze as Saku questioned him about it. As soon as Ayato picked up the book, Rintaro grabbed it from him in an instant. Saku remembered that Karako was the girl Subaru had protected back at the library. Thinking about Rintaro's recent strange behavior, he grew furious at his silence, until Rintaro muttered that he didn't want to explain himself. Their teacher broke the tension, telling everyone to clean up the mess before they resumed. Shohei then took Sakura away, trying to persuade him to have a floor-wiping race. Rintaro immediately regretted his words as soon as he got home. Not to mention, he didn't even realize Karuko left a note in his school notebook. Still, he decided to thank her. While studying, Karuko got a text from him saying he passed his exams thanks to her, and she blushed with joy. Karuko congratulated him, remarking it was actually thanks to his hard work, and he could enjoy the sports festival now. Rintaro recalled Subaru's warning about staying away from Karuko, and his unease deepened. Unsure of what to do, he felt lost. Meanwhile, Karuko smiled brightly after seeing he'd read her message. Already imagining what sport he might play at the festival, she giggled to herself. At school, Rintaro and Sakura drifted apart, worrying Shohei. Ayato urged him to step in, reminding him that Rintaro once repaired his friendship with Sakura. Filled with enthusiasm, Shohei invited everyone to the batting center after school, since the festival would feature baseball. Both Sakura and Rintaro refused at once, so Shohei gave up instantly, sinking into despair. After school ended, Sakura walked alone until Shohei and Ayato suddenly pulled up beside him, insisting they talk. Sakura claimed there was nothing to say, but Ayato pressed, asking if he was really certain. Sakura wondered if Rintaro really trusted them, but Shohei teased him for being over-emotional, considering he was always sharp-tongued. Sakura then recalled it was thanks to Rintaro he was able to fit in at Chidori, which was why he wanted to be there for him. Shohei then said Rintaro always acted for others without thinking, and likely never noticed Sakura's feelings. Ayato added that Rintaro simply didn't want to tell them, not that he was pretending nothing was wrong. This was the first time Rintaro revealed his true feelings, and Ayato believed Rintaro would eventually open up. They lifted Sakura's spirits and agreed to grab something to eat together. Rintaro's mom asked why he looked so down. He denied it, but she wasn't convinced. Thinking he had failed a test, she teased him. When he said he actually passed, she laughed, until she realized he was serious. She feared he had cheated, and was even more shocked because this was the highest score he had ever gotten. Soon after, Karuko entered shop, and Rintaro, startled, ducked behind the counter. His mom mentioned there wasn't much cake left, but Karuko didn't mind. She just wanted a slice now, as a reward for passing her midterms. Rintaro, panicking, urged his mom to keep his presents hidden, but she dragged him out, cheerfully announcing he'd done great on his tests too. Karuko was flustered seeing him, and his mom teased that their glass counter was see-through anyways. He remained silent until his mom urged him to take Karuko's order while she left for the kitchen. Before ordering, Karuko lifted her hands for a high five, congratulating Rintaro for passing and for the festival ahead. Remembering what happened in class, he hesitated, but reluctantly met her hand. After serving her order, Rintaro offered to walk Karuko to the station, but she declined. Instead, she told him to eat plenty whenever he felt down, since food gave energy. While rambling, Karuko completely forgot her original point. Rintaro burst into laughter at her rambling, and Karuko lit up with delight at his smile. But once she left, his sadness quietly returned. His heart felt clouded, but seeing her made it clear up instantly. When Subaru explained everything to him, Rintaro thought she had a point when she told him to stay away from Karuko. He respected Karuko a lot, but he felt like there was something he couldn't put into words. He looked at her message in silence, then clutched the phone close to his heart. On the other hand, Karuko didn't think she would meet Rintaro so suddenly, though she was hoping for it a little. It was the first time she had seen him laugh like that, and she thought it was cute. Staring at their texts, Karuko wondered if she should have asked Rintaro if something was wrong. Suddenly, she got a message that surprised her. Meanwhile, Rintaro's mom prepared a big dinner as a way to celebrate him passing his tests. She asked for the score again, and he said it was 100, which made her flick his head. Then, she saw the actual results, and it made her happy. Rintaro felt it wasn't a good score, but his mom pointed out when he was a kid, he'd just give up on pretty much everything. She was happy to see he worked hard this time and his efforts paid off. Seeing something was still bothering him, his mother decided not to pry in. She noted he was someone who would worry so much he would lose sight of what truly mattered. But in the end, he was someone who could judge for himself. As long as Rintaro was living a good life, she couldn't ask for more. That night, Subaru sat alone on a bench, recalling the day she first met Karuko. Suddenly, Karuko appeared. Spotting her dressed up, Subaru asked if she'd gone out somewhere, but Karuko only gave a vague reply. Karuko was taken aback, seeing the park they usually played at when they were younger. Then, she asked what Subaru wanted to talk about, saying they could have just talked about it at school. However, Subaru said school wasn't suitable because this was about Rintaro, and she mentioned she spoke with him a few days ago. When they were much younger, Subaru would cry a lot when Karuko fell from the monkey bars. Meanwhile, Karuko was just trying to imitate bats. Subaru would beg her to stop doing dangerous things, but Karuko reassured her she was fine. Subaru saw Karuko as cheerful, cute and strong, basically her hero, and she wished she could be as strong as Katako. She then told Katako what she had told Rintaro after meeting with him, then immediately apologized for doing something so selfish. However, Katako didn't think much about it, especially when thinking about the degree of bad blood between Chidori and Kikyo. Katako claimed Subaru told Rintaro to stay away for her sake, and apologized for making her worry. But Subaru couldn't understand why Katako was apologizing to her. She thought herself to be the worst. After speaking with Rintaro, Subaru spent her days in fear that he might have told Katako, but she eventually realized he never said anything. And so, Subaru thought if Rintaro never told Katako, then she would never come to hate her. But the guilt grew, and made it hard for her to breathe. When it seemed like it would finally crush her, she called Katako to get the weight off her chest. And the most unforgivable thing was when Katako didn't blame her. Subaru felt relief from this. She also felt unchanged from back then. Even after growing her hair out to copy Katako, she still saw herself as a disgusting coward who relied on others. She cried helplessly, despising herself and apologizing to Katako. Then, Katako grabbed her hands, snapping her to her senses, and said they should go have some fun. Katako started swinging from the monkey bars just like old times, while Subaru worried her clothes would get dirty. Katako then admitted that it actually hurt those times she fell from the monkey bars, and remembered Subaru once crying, "You can't die, Katako, just give all your pain to me." Hearing it again, Subaru flushed with embarrassment. Though Katako called her kind, Subaru only felt like a burden, convinced Katako was merely putting up with her. Katako felt guilty for being careless and upsetting Subaru, yet she was also glad Subaru cared so deeply. Subaru was always there when she needed her. So, Katako embraced her warmly, telling her not to deny the Subaru she loved. She would continue to believe in the Subaru she'd seen, until the day Subaru would see herself as someone worth putting up with. Katako vowed to keep telling her the truth, that she loved Subaru with all her heart. Subaru thought Katako had always been like this since the day they met. Now, she finally understood what she needed to do. Suddenly, Subaru hugged Katako, admitting she should have talked to her before confronting Rintaro. Then, she asked what Katako wanted to do, but replied she still wanted to see him. And hearing this, Subaru asked if she liked him. Katako replied softly that she loved him. And to this, Subaru then added Rintaro had also said he couldn't stop seeing her. Subaru didn't think she could like herself yet, still seeing herself as a pathetic coward. But because Katako always believed in her, she decided to trust that one day she might love the self that Katako loved so deeply. On their way back, Katako suddenly got a message from Rintaro, saying he wanted to talk to her about something. Rintaro had actually been wanting to talk to Subaru, but with no way to reach her, he decided to go through Katako. While he worried about how to ask her, Katako called, startling him. Rintaro began by apologizing for leaving her on red. Nervously, he said he wanted to speak with Subaru. Katako then handed over the phone, since they were together, surprising him. Subaru then asked if they could meet after school tomorrow. The next day, he met up with her, and asked if it was okay for them to meet like this, considering they were still in their uniforms. Subaru said it was fine, appreciating the concern. Rintaro then asked what he had to do for Subaru to let him see Katako, but Subaru quickly reminded him that she wasn't Katako's mother. He admitted he knew the trouble that could come from meeting her, but still wished to do something without burdening Katako. Subaru admitted she had been selfish, and wondered if he hated her after everything she said. But Rintaro replied, not at all. He knew she only deeply cared for Katako and respected that, seeing Subaru as genuinely kind. Rintaro also wanted to know what would put her at ease, because he couldn't ignore someone who truly treasured Katako. Hearing this, Subaru couldn't help but think he was too good for his own good. She called herself an idiot and confessed to Subaru that she had told Katako everything they talked about at the cafe, including the part where he admitted he couldn't stop seeing her. She then suggested if they met far away from school, it would be fine. A ball suddenly struck Rintaro with surprising force. The boy who came running after it was the same one from the cafe. Seeing them together, the boy figured they had to be good friends. After all, they were chatting together. Subaru said they weren't friends just yet, but once she could love herself, she hoped to be. Rintaro reminded her he was from Chidori, yet she didn't care. Curious, he asked if something happened, and when Subaru flushed, she answered it was a secret. Lying on his bed, Rintaro thought about how the group chat with his friends had been really quiet lately. He blamed himself for it. Just then, he got a text from Katako, asking if he had talked with Subaru properly. He then apologized for telling her about his interaction with Subaru at the cafe. However, Katako was glad Subaru now knew about the two of them. During baseball practice, Shohei was bothered by Rintaro's odd behavior. He pointed out Rintaro was really good at sports, so his recent clumsiness wasn't right. Not only that, but Rintaro had also been fidgety during class. Shohei decided they would follow Rintaro until they found out what was going on. They followed him all the way to the park, where Rintaro met up with Karuko and Subaru. Shohei's jaw completely dropped seeing them together. Rintaro then went to a cafe with the girls and apologized for always calling them to hang out all the time. But Karuko blurted that it made her happy since they got to see each other more often. Subaru felt a little secondhand embarrassment because her best friend was being so obvious with her feelings. Meanwhile, Shohei was boiling with jealousy because Rintaro was hanging out with 2 girls. Ayato was also being loud about his order, and Saku tried to get them to keep their voices low. Rintaro then said he wanted to tell his friends about the girls because he didn't want to hide anything from them. He mentioned how people usually avoided him due to his appearance, but after getting into Chidori, his friends stayed by his side, and at some point, he realized they were irreplaceable. Rintaro admired how Karuko and Subaru cared for each other. He wanted that same bond with his friends. Of course, Karuko had no issues with it, and Subaru agreed as long as Karuko was fine. Karuko even suggested they befriend Rintaro's friends too. On their way home, Subaru asked Rintaro to introduce her to his friends so she could apologize about what happened at the library. Out of nowhere, a group of guys surrounded them. Karuko spotted 2 hiding by a tree, the same bullies from before. Rintaro now understood they must have told their seniors after he stood up to them. He tried to brush them off, but they were surrounded fast. The leader accused him of attacking his juniors. Karuko stepped in to defend Rintaro, but the guys quickly shifted their attention to the girls. Noticing they were from Kikyo, Rintaro stepped in front, saying he'd face them after sending the girls home. Their leader refused. One of the bullies then reached for Subaru's hair, only for Shohei to appear, intercepting his hand. Rintaro was shocked to see his friends here. Saku then told him to take the girls to safety while they dealt with the bullies. On his way out, Rintaro promised to tell them everything properly once this was all over. Saku stormed up to the boys behind the tree, calling them scaredy cats for dragging seniors into their fight. One snapped back, admitting they caused Rintaro's head injury and still mocked him as pathetic. Hearing this, Ayato snapped, dropping his bag and marching straight to deal with him. Over at the train station, Rintaro apologized for putting the girls in danger, but Karuko was more worried about his friends. However, Rintaro said they would be fine, and he felt more sorry for the bullies. Then, he got a call from Ayato, confirming they were in fact all fine. Rintaro wanted to meet back with them, but Ayato told him to just head home and be ready for the sports festival. Ayato had beaten up all the bullies, and Shohei pointed out his terrifying strength, though Ayato claimed to be an advocate of peace. He then approached one of the bullies, who was still conscious, making it clear Rintaro wasn't pathetic, but was rather one of the coolest guys he'll ever meet, and Ayato threatened what would happen if the guy ever forgot that. During the festival, Rintaro still wasn't performing well. His teammates were frustrated, so they switched him out. While he went to wash up, he admitted he couldn't focus because he hadn't heard from his friends yet. Just then, they approached him, and Rintaro quickly thanked them for their help. Shohei accidentally blurted out that they'd been stalking him, leaving Rintaro embarrassed, believing they had overheard his words at the restaurant. Shohei then dashed off with Ayato, leaving Saku to reconcile with Rintaro. Saku apologized to him, not only for the stalking, but also for lashing out earlier. As they exchanged apologies, Saku confessed he often blamed others. He then told Rintaro to listen carefully, since he would never repeat this again. Mustering up the courage, Saku admitted he trusted him, Ayato, and Shohei from the bottom of his heart. And this moved Rintaro to tears. Shohei and Ayato returned shortly after, happy to see the 2 guys were all good now. Back at the game, their classmates were still worried about Rintaro's performance, but Saku assured them Rintaro was the guy who delivered when it really mattered. When the ball was thrown, Rintaro hit a perfect home run. While he ran to the base, he thought about how great the weather was. Before he knew it, his friends and classmates surrounded him with warm hugs. Thanks to his performance, they were on the way to the finals. One of the guys who took pictures ran over to their teacher, showing him a lovely picture of Rintaro and his friends. Alright, what a good friendship these guys have, huh? I also think Karuko is super cute with how she expresses herself towards Rintaro. So far now, having completed 7 episodes in the books, this is definitely a feel-good story about coming of age, relationships with friends and love, and fun school days. Let me know what you guys think. For now though, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea, and I'll see you all in the next one.